Okay.
Okay, very good. So sometimes you think I'm in front of a mirror. Yeah? You're still in Paris, Sarah?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm at my father's place now. I think I have to admit people from the waiting room, right?
Yeah, you can. I would wait another 5 minutes and then admit everybody. Let's see. This is Zoom, so this is the chat. Yeah, Zoom I think is the easiest, much easier than Teams. Mm-hmm. Perhaps we need to take an other background.
I think, is it possible?
No, it's not possible because we have not used our the Rockgroep Zoom account. If you have a paid account, then you can neutralize your background.
But this is this is Jonas with Jonas.
That's from the workgroup, huh?
Yeah. Then we should be able to then.
Normally, yeah, it's next to stop video. There you see virtual background. Strange, but let's not do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add a little color to it. No, that's not what we want. This one, Sarah.
That's on your maybe here.
No, there are no backgrounds, so there are no virtual backgrounds for us.
And do you see a background now?
With you? No, it's blurred a little bit. How did you do that? I'll do the same.
Yeah, it's on top right of your image. There's 3 little points.
Yeah.
And then the third line is to choose a virtual background. And then you can.
Now I have that here. Yeah, which one did you choose?
A blurry one. There's a none and then blurry, and then there's the San Francisco.
I don't have that. I only have none. Oh. Maybe. I like the blurry one. No. Okay. Yeah. Do it this way. That's fine. It's good your blurry one because you know it focuses on your face and not on the background.
True. But your background is pretty neutral, so that's okay.
Yeah, all the mess is here in front of me. I can do it a little bit like this even, so.
There's somebody in the waiting room, so I'll admit them.
Yeah, good. I'll let them know we're not in checkout, right?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I see it's already 4 o'clock. I suggest we wait for other participant to slowly come in, and then we will be able to start. I suggest we wait 2 more minutes and then get started with the session. Okay, it is 4:05. I think we can start introducing ourselves at least to start the session. I think more people are going to be joining in, but yeah, let's get started. So welcome everyone to this working session from the Rock Group. We're going to introduce ourselves personally. My name is Sarah Gain. I work for the Rock Group. I'm based in Brussels. And I work particularly on EU affairs and develop the activity internationally and at EU level. I'll give the floor to Elfrieke, partner from the Rock Group, before starting the presentation.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for facilitating this. Elfrieke van Gaande, one of the partners of the work group, and will explain what the work group is shortly before we dive into biodiversity.
So I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. So welcome everyone to this session of We Value Nature's 10 Days Challenge. We're going to talk about today how to link your sustainability strategy, particularly circular economy strategy, to your biodiversity strategy, and how to facilitate both and integrate both together. We would like to congratulate you for participating to that challenge first, and we're very happy to have you all here today. Just so you know, you can still sign up for the daily challenges. We hope that you have been experiencing some challenges proposed daily by We Value Nature. You can still also register to other sessions of the 10 Days Challenge. And you can also have access to the rest of the insights and inputs on We Value Nature's platform and websites. We'll give you and share with you all the useful links just after the session by email. This initiative, We Value Nature, is funded by the EU and supported by many partners, the Capitals Coalition, WBCSD, IUCN, OPLA, and many more. And we would like to thank them all for their involvement and for welcoming us to participate to that challenge and share with you that working session. Some basic rules first, before we start working together. We're going to have this session as interactive as possible. And thus, we would like you to open your menti.com page with the code that you can see just right here, 34834439. And we would like you to keep this page open because we're going to ask you some questions and to ask you to interact along the session. Also, don't hesitate to use the chat for any question that you would have or any remark that you would like to make. We would like also to advise you to take a blank page and a pen next to you so you can note out some ideas and go giving some inputs and so on, and be able to give in and participate to the brainstorming. And also note that the webinar is recorded, thus you will also have access to it after the session. And just 1 second, I'm going to admit some more people. So this is how we're going to go about. And this is the first, I'm going to get back to that page first because I see we have newcomers. Please connect to menti.com and introduce this code right here, 34834439, so we can have you interact with us along the working session. And if you connect right now, you'll see that the first question is already up. And so before introducing ourselves, we would like to know who is participating and what type of organization is here today with us. I see that some people have already started to fill in. Also, let me know if you have any difficulty accessing to the Mentimeter or connecting, and we'll do our best to help you. The Menti code, I'll put it again. I'll put it in the chat so you can have all access to it. It's 3483 4439 here. Three, 4439. And if you cannot access to the menti.com through your phone, you can always have another page open with your computer. And otherwise, please don't hesitate to also interact and give your inputs in the chat, and we'll try to combine both. You actually can have the Zoom open and the Mentimeter page open if you click escape, because I have been sharing my screen now, so it's full screen, but you can always escape the full screen and still access the shared screen and all the content of the presentation, and have the other page of menti.com open next to it. I see that more people are participating now. I'll let the answers coming in. I see we have several businesses participating, some public institutions, some others, I would assume independent workers or consultants, or people just interested in how to merge circular economy and biodiversity together. This is great. Okay. So we have a quick overview. I understand that not everyone has been able to participate to the Mentimeter this one, but don't hesitate to share also in the chat and introduce yourself. I would also recommend that you change your names. On the top right of your screen, there's the 3 little dots. You can rename and add your organization or yes, which business or which interest you're in, so that we can have a quick overview and see quickly who is who. So now that you've introduced yourself, I'd like to introduce to you the Rock Group. We are a sustainability boutique existing since 2012, and we're working towards sustainability transition systemically. So we are working towards a transition at a societal level, working with businesses, but also with education, business strategy and implementation, but also business development. And we are working with an adapted approach per business and per sector on several sustainability themes. Namely, we're working on circular economy, on sustainable business development, as I was saying, We're also working on sustainability, energy transition, human rights, governance, and biodiversity. We're working at EU level. We're based in Amsterdam, also in Brussels, soon in South Africa. We're working also with the Southeast Asia and Eastern Africa for a few years. And we have developed our expertise adapted to each region and each context of the world. Today, we're going to talk about sustainability integration on biodiversity integration in business with a hook on circular economy at 4 steps. So I'm just going to admit some people coming in. We would, sorry. I see that some people have some issues opening the Mentimeter and the connection is not so good. As I was saying, you can always intervene in the chat and we will combine Mentimeter responses with your interventions in the chat. And this being said, we would like to I was presenting our agenda, I'm sorry. So we are going to talk about integration of biodiversity in business and then assess the gap between your business maturity and sustainability and between your maturity on biodiversity. Then we will have a 15 minutes break and then we will get to the point and explain the gap and assess the gap all together. I would like to give the floor to Elfrieke van Galen, who will present the integration of biodiversity and the first step of our integration journey.
Thank you, Sarah. And also welcome to everybody, also those who joined later. So first of all, our thinking goes along the 3 lines with businesses and biodiversity: integrated thinking, integrated acting, and integrated reporting. We see a lot of emphasis on integrated reporting, on measurement. Integrated thinking is for us more the strategy side of it, but the real difficulty is in integrated acting. So that's when we work with businesses, we work along those 3 lines. And what we are really in favor of integrating biodiversity in the business, such as any other sustainability theme. And why? Because, only then it becomes part of doing daily business. We don't want it to be a separate theme where we look at that once a year when we are setting up the report. Oh yeah, there was something as biodiversity. Now it needs to be part of every business decision. And that's why we use this mental model when we work with businesses. Yes. Next one, please. And of course, everybody, I think, around the table here in a We Value Nature seminar knows that all sustainability themes are interrelated, right? Because climate change, biodiversity, circular economy, but also human rights, they're all interrelated in one ecosystem, in one system thinking. But for integrating in business, we think it's easier to take every sustainability topic separately when we starting to embed it in business, because otherwise it becomes too complex for the business. That's why we say integrated thinking, acting, and reporting for all different sustainability topics and also for biodiversity. Yeah. And then we like to, for this seminar, like to introduce a way of thinking. And we call that the maturity level of sustainability in an organization. And there are, and that in fact, that is saying how far advanced is a business in sustainability. And there are a lot of models around. And for the discussion today, we're using this model, which is a very simple one. How far is the company? Is it still at the level at compliance? Or are there projects, ad hoc, not very structured? Or number 3, is there a clear selection process, which topics to work on? Are there targets? Next, is it embedded in processes? And or is it fully integrated? Yeah, so this is our mental model for today. And when you have questions, you don't agree, Sarah is saying, or when you want to add something to what we're saying, Sarah is saying, please put it in the chat, but also feel free to unmute yourself and speak up, yeah, because otherwise it's us only speaking, and we like to get it as interactive as possible. And then the next question is a Mentimeter question, Sarah.
Yes, for the ones that were able to connect on the Mentimeter, I have also put the code again for the newcomers for menti.com. You can answer this question: where does your organization stand on sustainability maturity? So we would like to know at what step of the maturity way your organization stands, to be able then to assess the gap between your sustainability maturity and your biodiversity maturity. I see that most people, most participants today are at level 1, level compliance. Some have ad hoc projects, have been starting to consider biodiversity a bit deeper. Actually, this now, well, it's changing live now. We have, so most of level 1 compliance, but quite some participants too that have already selected topics and targets on biodiversity. And kind of a few actually that have fully integrated biodiversity integration strategy. So this is great to know, just great to see. And this is also a great opportunity for the ones that are level 1 and 2 to share also with other participants and have them inspired and be
Okay, yeah. Shall I continue, Sarah? Or do you want to?
Yes, yes,
So
sure.
we have quite a spread group around the table today, both compliance and ad hoc, but also some front runners, right, on 4 and 5. Huh?
We do have quite some front runners.
Okay, and then the next question, and we use here an example of a supermarket in Belgium, is of course it's important in this moving up the maturity level is the question where to integrate, right? Because biodiversity for some companies might be really important for their own operations, for others more in the supply chain or part of the supply chain. So a next model to take with you is to point out where is it important. And you see here in this example, it's about those topics which are relevant for, in this case, Delhaize, and they have with bullets, they've indicate where is it most important, because that really focus the attention and that makes it work. Yeah, so this is another model that you would like to show with you. And then to our in our understanding and in our practice, we see that there is quite a gap in terms of biodiversity integration in business and with other sustainability themes. So what we would like to do in this section is first to see what is that gap, and then of course by the end also getting your input there. If that's okay, then Sarah, where does our knowledge come from, or our opinion? Huh? Yearly, we are based in the Netherlands, and yearly we go through all yearly reports of all stock listed companies in the Netherlands. And we're doing that now for 4 years. And only once there was a stock listed company which in their yearly report of their supervisory board, so not the total report, but of the supervisory board, they have to indicate what's really important to us, that they mentioned biodiversity. So at the highest level, and also this is already 2 years old. I hope it's better this year, but also from the Fortune 500 companies, which is in fact a worldwide research, only a small percentage take biodiversity into account in their reporting. That doesn't know that they're not doing anything on it, but they don't think it's so important that they take it into account in their reporting. Yeah, it's not often mentioned as other topics like, of course, climate change, circular economy, human rights. Yeah, so it's just not mentioned. And then if we move to the next slide, sometimes, and we're interested what you're seeing, is that when companies in general in sustainability, for example, at level 4 or at level 3, biodiversity is still at level 2, a lot of ad hoc projects. Yeah, so we see a difference in where the companies in general with the maturity level of sustainability, and where if we look at the isolated topic of biodiversity. That's one of the what we observe. And then I think Sarah has a question to us again.
Yes, please connect to the Mentimeter again, and also the ones that, again, the ones that cannot connect, interact in the chat. Could you indicate the difference between your sustainability maturity level that you have shared just before, and your biodiversity maturity level? So on the same scale, where are you on the biodiversity compared to overall sustainability strategy that you're putting in place? I'll let people slowly start to respond. Most people for now are 2 steps, have a gap of 2 steps, right, between their sustainability maturity and biodiversity level. Don't hesitate also to formulate how you assess that in the chat or by intervening, by unmuting.
So what were you saying, Sarah, that the majority of the audience had 1 step in between?
They have 2 steps. The majority responding now have 2 steps in between their sustainability maturity level and biodiversity integration and maturity level. And maybe you could also mention in the chat where biodiversity stands. Is it level 2, level 1? What's the difference? Where does the difference stand in your maturity scale?
But it's interesting to see that, in fact, that the group aligns with what we are seeing, right?
Exactly.
If the group would have said no, there's no difference, then we really had another discussion today at the table, and then you didn't see a gap where we see the gap.
Well, there's one participant saying there is no difference. Also, some participants have said there's 1 step, so actually a bit more integrated in the sustainability, but indeed the majority of respondents here.
Sarah, on the chat was, and I have to say that the group, we cannot see the outcome of the Mentimeter. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm going to do.
No, in the Mentimeter itself, I cannot see the outcome, and it was also on the chat. But if that's the case, then it's good that you read out loud what
right.
What the results are. Yeah.
Can you see now?
In the Mentimeter, no.
Okay.
But it's just read it out. Yeah. So here you're saying the majority has a 2-step difference.
Yeah, the majority has a 2-step difference. A few respondents have indicated no difference. So fully integrated biodiversity and sustainability maturity level, which is impressive. And don't hesitate to share how you came to that point, and we'll come together. To have an exchange about it. Show results. Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, well,
then we continue this way. Yeah? And for those indeed who have no gap, you know, step 4, we're working together on how to overcome the gap. So I think it's good then to take the floor and share with us how you've done that. Yeah, because a lot of companies are waiting for that secret information, perhaps.
Okay. Well, I'll try to manage this showing results in between, but we can also go on with the presentation for
Yeah,
now.
let's go on and just mention it. Yeah.
So when we assess the gap of sustainability, how to assess the gap on the sustainability maturity and the biodiversity maturity. Sorry, I think, okay. So how do we explain actually the difference between the sustainability and biodiversity maturity? Is small engagements first. We don't see any much reporting. We don't see dedicated metrics to. We don't see much targets or reference, much detail into this meaning of measuring. And this is not from a bad will. This is also because it oftentimes comes out as very technical and pretty out of reach for most organizations and most businesses. And we would like to know actually your opinion on that. How do you explain your gap between sustainability maturity and biodiversity maturity? Have you ever considered this gap, if ever, and how do you explain that lacking behind on biodiversity as a business or as an organization?
Yeah. And you know, you can use the Mentimeter or the chat, whatever suits you best. Everybody can read the chat, huh? And and this is in step 3. We're going to also explain the gap, but therefore it's good to see what your assessment is. Yeah.
I suggest, because the Mentimeter is not very accessible to most of the participants, that you directly use the chat and interact together as
Yeah, we can all read it, huh? So.
I see Sibyl has shared quite some insights on integrating biodiversity on the so-called privately protected areas, which are private sector-led best practices on the natural capital. Maybe Sibyl, if you want to share some more insights about it.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I think one sector which can be extremely protected, I mean, biodiversity active is tourism, because we depend on a very well-preserved environment. So we have invested into an island and with coral reef and forest in Zanzibar to turn this into a fully protected park, which is actually gazetted by the government of Zanzibar, and it's also listed at the World Conservation Monitoring Center. And this exists already for nearly 30 years. So it's amazing. There's no take of anything, coral reef or forest, it's totally protected. And there's a small eco lodge which funds the whole thing with only 7 bungalows, which is also built according to eco architecture. So we have rainwater catchment, solar powered electricity, compost toilets. So there's no sewage whatsoever. The water comes from the rain, etc. So it's very low footprint, or I mean zero emission as much as we can get it. Yeah. But of course, we depend on long haul traveling, which at the moment is very much down. So the business is quite dormant at the moment, but hopefully will recover. But of course, the challenge is to protect nature. In the global south, you will depend on long-haul travels, yeah, and that's something which is not easy to deal with. It's external for us, but it's definitely something our business depends on.
Thank you for your intervention. That's really, I think
So
you're.
in your case, Sibylle, it's the other way around. Biodiversity is at a higher level of integration than carbon. Huh?
Yes, it's top.
Whereby most companies, we see it the other way around. Yeah, thank you. Interesting.
I see just Bia's participating, saying biodiversity simply isn't a mainstream topic. Sustainability, sadly understood mainly as CO2 emission, is the topic that matters. That's also an observation that we have made actually, that biodiversity seems so far away from what we understand as sustainability, right?
Yeah.
We don't.
We will come back to that, why that is, yeah, and especially on business, eh? Yeah.
And on the, that's also, yeah, that's how we see that biodiversity integration is only some discussions, some projects maybe, and we leave the management of biodiversity to actually scientific people, scientific or organizations that dedicate to biodiversity, and not takes out as businesses or responsibility as businesses.
Dara, let's take a break then. Yeah, is that? And then after the break, let's dive deeper into it and see how we can solve this one. Right?
Right. So I'll see everyone in 15 minutes. Thank you for sharing in.
Yeah, you can keep your, of course, stay logged in. Just mute and stop your video, and then we continue. Yeah. So let's please be back at what time?
We'll all be back at it's 37 now. So I'll make a little alarm.
50, 45.
45. We'll be all back at 45.
Yeah.
I hope everyone had the time to grab a cup of coffee, to have a little break and a little breath. We'll slowly start to the second session, the second part of the session. I see some people are coming back. Apologies for the technical issue with the Mentimeter. I suggest that from now on, we interact all in the chat. And if some of the participants, some of you would like to intervene directly, you can also just unmute and present yourself and also give your take. We are a group that will be easy to interact all together, I think. So don't hesitate to just give your opinion out loud, or share in the chat as a forum. I'll wait one more minute to have the actual 15 minutes. And then we'll start breaking. Antonio has been sharing about all environmental issue that turned into a fashion tend to be forgotten. Antonio, if you want to expand on this out loud, you can unmute and.
Yeah, hello. Sorry,
Hello.
but I have some issues with my internet signal. Yes, it's easy, you know. Actually, biodiversity was a really sexy issue a couple of years ago, but it's really good when you write some sentences. It's really good when you write a strategic plan, but then when you try to put into practice, things are not as sexy as they were. And actually, I would say that then you choose another fashion. that's the reason why. It's like, okay, biodiversity is sexy, but you are going to get dirt. And when you want to put into practice and choose some techniques, some management rules, some habitat measures, you need to get dirt, you know, and it stops. When you are full of mud, you are not sexy anymore. And we choose another environmental issue. And it's a pity. It's a pity because we are losing time and we are losing money and we are losing biodiversity. That's the reason why. But
Yeah,
it is what it is. It is what it is.
I see what you're saying, and let's see if we can understand why that's happening and how can we overcome this and avoid it in the future.
I would say that after more than 20 years working with these subjects, since the book, because I implement them and I also discuss them at a higher level, because I work at the Confederation of Agriculture Cooperatives, so I can actually trace everything from the field to the office. I would say that you don't fight against these fashions. It is what it is. So you just need to don't give up, because landowners, forest owners, farmers are going to still be there, and you need to work with them. That's my, I don't know if it's because of my gray hair, or it's because of me are a little bit tired of fashions, but it is what it is. It is what
Well, you observe that most organizations actually take the easy way out when they see the difficulties related to biodiversity, right? Actually, we explain the gap from our experience and our findings with three reasons, three main reasons. That's the knowledge and awareness gap. What you were saying here is that people have knowledge of biodiversity and has been a fashionable topic before, but still knowledge and awareness seem to be one of the main reasons why biodiversity isn't assessed.
I would say that mostly it's not awareness, it's engagement.
All
You
right.
need more than cooperate and to aware. At the moment, you need to engage, because it's really good to have a nice picture like this one, or you can have an eagle or another bird or a mammal. But the huge amount of work you need to do to have a picture like this, and people tend to, nobody wants to wait 10 years to see results, you know. That's the reason why. That's
That,
and
that actually relates
biodiversity.
to that second reason that we found, which is the transition gap that gives some difficulties to the organization. The transition.
We will explain the transition, Sarah, when we see the slides, right? So let's go through it, perhaps, then it explains where we come from.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the third one would be the actionability gap. And so knowledge and awareness, as we saw before on the previous slide about the 500 fortunes, biodiversity is not so much mentioned. It's very few organizations that actually mention biodiversity in their traditional way of addressing sustainability, as we saw also in the Mentimeter, and as I think you have observed. There's a gap between engaging in sustainability and biodiversity. When we consult stakeholders and organizations, we see that the biodiversity is not a topic that they mention oftentimes, and and we don't really see the link between both.
If I might add something, Sarah, to the previous one, if you can show that again. So what you probably know or don't know at the right side, that is a methodology to determine which sustainability topics are relevant for an organization. That's the GRI matrix. And indeed, what Sarah said, we then ask stakeholders from a company, what's important? What do you think is important for the company to work on? Biodiversity almost never comes up, even if we ask NGOs. That's why we always add it to it. But that's I think one of the first reasons why there is this gap. Next.
A second reason why we see this gap is also the knowledge and awareness, and this is questionable, of course, because as Antonio has shared with us, but we observe that the board members are less educated on biodiversity than other sustainability topics. There was also some other reactions in the chat that were saying, that sustainability is mostly related to climate change, human rights, circular economy, and all these easily actionable topics, actually, less technical topics. And the biodiversity relevance for business itself is also new. So the knowledge about how biodiversity relates to business and impacts business directly is also new.
May I also add there something, Sarah? We are also involved in education of board programs, and there we see exactly the same. What we see now, however, that individuals think it's important, but they have no clue how to relate it to the business. So I hope that will move on over the years, but we'll see. Thank you.
We also observe a transition gap that could explain this difference between sustainability action and biodiversity action. when it's a bit the chicken and the egg question in here. Which theme, which ways to engage, which system exchange for sustainability, we don't really know. As we see, we don't really assess actually as a society or as members of organization. As we see here, a circular economy is a very trendy topic. We see an acceleration of this topic also at international organizations level. With the Green Deal from the EU Commission. The energy transition is also well established, well on its way. We all talk about it, but biodiversity is still at takeoff, before takeoff movement, and it's still in development. This transition gap is also because biodiversity and sustainability is addressed in parallel and not together and not integrated together. So how do you compare biodiversity? How do you put together, or how do you steer biodiversity when you think you're focusing only on energy transition, when you're focusing only on circular economy transition? You're kind of taking biodiversity a bit aside and as an extra work, an extra action to take, when actually it should be all together and implemented.
Thank you. Shall I take the next slide, Sarah?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next one, in fact, we already discussed that, no, we have not discussed it yet. Assume there's an organization which is really on its way with carbon and with circular economy, and then a new topic hits in, biodiversity. Yeah, okay, we see we need to work on it as well, but there where there are the majority of the organizations we work with, businesses, they have clear targets, measurements on carbon, for example. And then a board or supervisory board are expecting the same level then from day one from biodiversity. And then it all goes wrong, yeah? Because how come we have clear targets and measurements on carbon and on circular economy? Well, targets on waste, measurements on waste. And what you're telling me that we have to include biodiversity. Okay, that's nice. I'm convinced we need to do that if I'm on the board. But then my next question is, okay, how far are we? What are the measurements? And then it stops. Yeah, so that's in our view also one of the reasons why there is this gap. Yeah? That the expectations, especially for those organizations who are ahead of majority, are stretched. Yeah? Too much stress. And if we then come to the next one, really linked to it, that's it's difficult to measure, right? It's difficult to measure, and we see a lot of organizations, we call it trapped in the black hole of measurement of biodiversity. They also linked to the reporting. They spend so much time, energy in the measurement that nothing is moving. Yeah. So the question is can we also move on without measurement? That's one of the questions. Or is this whole measurement dilemma, is that an excuse not to act? I don't know, there's a question mark behind it, but it's we consider biodiversity measurement sometimes the black hole. Yeah, we're really trapped in there, especially if we combine it with carbon, which is much easier to measure nowadays. Yeah, thank you.
And now I'd like to lead you again either to the Mentimeter or to the chat conversation, where we have outlined three main reasons why we see this gap. So the knowledge and awareness, transition challenges, actionability challenges. We would like to know where you situate yourself. How do you explain your organization's a gap on it? I see on the Mentimeter that there has been several answers already. The majority is talking about knowledge and awareness. It's actually quite even. I would say it's changing live, but the transition challenges are also a problem. And this challenge of actionability and the many different ways of measuring, the many different ways of going there, are also taking problems. And now it's changing again. And we see that actually transition challenges.
Is that the largest one? Yeah.
The largest one, yeah, it's transition challenges.
Well, that's good to know that we've already overcome the knowledge and awareness gap. I hope that's the case, but so you also recognize, that's good to hear, that as the three transitions are at a different pace at the moment, climate, circular and biodiversity, that also explains one of the reasons why there is a gap. Okay. And I'm reading in the chat from Antonio that the major problem is that most of the people started thinking that if you solve circular economy and Green Deal, biodiversity is solved as well. Oh, I didn't know that was also currently going on. Well, let's move on, Sarah. Yeah?
Right. And so the step 4 would be to overcome the gap. And that's where we'd like to share with you and have the most interaction with you. We're going to go about this taking over this little gap between biodiversity and sustainability. And Elfrika, I'll let you the floor for the first.
Yeah, what I find, but it is really linked to awareness. What I find an easy way in organizations and companies, especially the larger one, to start with biodiversity is to link it with risk management. Yeah? Because every organization from a certain size needs to have their risk management in place. And what you're seeing at the right side is a kind of a traditional way of looking at risk management. Yeah. There are two questions which are relevant for the risk management. Are we somewhere dependent on biodiversity? For example, is there supply chain risk? That could be the risk related to it. And do we have impact on biodiversity? And if so, that could be a reputation risk. And as a majority of the established organizations have a real, as I said, risk management system in place, I always use that one to hook on to start awareness. So that might be a tip for you.
Also, don't hesitate to start noting on your side, on your blank page, some items that you see at risk, that you see dependent or impactful on biodiversity, right? And then you can also share with us what you observe, what you assume is having an impact or a dependence on biodiversity still now in the chat or lively orally.
Yeah, I also have done this exercise on climate change with companies, and there it really started with starting with the risk. So if there's no entrance for no awareness at all, start there. That's one of our tips. Sarah.
To overcome the gap, we also suggest that you make some quickly actionable actions, quickly actionable projects. And as we were seeing the actionability, the transition challenges have been pushing back organizations from taking action in biodiversity, when actually you could raise awareness with your collaborators. And adjust your actions to your sector, your size, and your knowledge. You don't have to make it too technical. That's the main point that we want to share now, is that you can steer the transition internally in an integrated way and have collaborators getting engaged and feeling like they have a take on this transition. And for that, it doesn't have to relate to big measurements or big assessments and reportings, but very concrete actions and very concrete awareness to be shared among collaborators and with the board members. Maybe you see some opportunities of sharing with your colleagues. Maybe you can have access to, for example, the We Value Nature little trainings that are available and actionable to have some collaborators share with others. So ambassadorship and actually real contact among collaborators is one aspect of steering biodiversity along with other sustainability themes. We see a lot of sustainability themes such as climate change or circular economy being shared like this among peers within organizations of all sizes. Why not biodiversity? Biodiversity is also a theme to be shared, and we'll show you just after on what topics specifically we could emphasize. This concrete takes and concrete actions and interactions actually among collaborators can lead to set short-term objectives. Collaborators can together decide on what biodiversity topics, what would the biodiversity actions they could take, and set objectives at their scale, on their sector, and then and thus facilitate the long-term vision of biodiversity transition at the organization level, at the business level.
Sarah, may I share a very concrete example of what you're saying? My background is in the airline industry, and I think this was more than 12 years ago, is that, and I have a personal thing with biodiversity, so I invited a speaker on biodiversity. Yeah? I had no clue at that time, how can we relate biodiversity to the airline industry? And I just invited colleagues and co-workers, just, would you like to think along? Yeah? And we had a very inspiring speaker from IUCN by that time. And by the end after his speech, we just had a dialogue, and we found out that there were links with biodiversity, and the individuals took it on. So make it simple, start, not too ambitious, and now there's still a biodiversity policy and execution in the airline. No measurement though, still, this is 10 years ago. Okay.
So measurements and technicalities are not necessary to actually take action in biodiversity. And now taking to the point of how do we hook on biodiversity, and we decided to talk about how to steer biodiversity through circular economy, because circular economy is, as we said, a hot topic. Actually, we talk about how biodiversity, circular economy is everywhere. Everybody knows about it. More and more people are aware and have knowledge on how to take action on the transition systemically. But a few have this idea of taking action on circular economy could also allow you to take action concretely on biodiversity. So it doesn't mean that you're already doing the work when you have a circular economy strategy. It doesn't mean that we're going there or we're already on the right path, or actually it does mean that we're already on the right path, but it doesn't mean that we're there yet. But adjusting your projects and your action to improve your biodiversity impact, and then report better and introduce biodiversity impact and objectives to your overall strategy, could allow you to have your biodiversity action not in parallel with the rest of the sustainability themes, but just really integrated as we were sharing before. So this diagram here shows the interrelation between circular economy system and nature resources, highlighting the most impactful actions on circular economy that you can emphasize to steer biodiversity.
And Sarah, if I may, if you go back one slide, I think that really links to what Mohammed said in the chat. He said, I think that the problem is that biodiversity has multiple dimensions. Yeah. So it requires a different approach. And what you're doing here is hook on, so what's already there, yeah, and take the approach of where can you link it? Because what we hear very often with companies, especially in the boardroom, again, a new topic, yeah. So the more you hook on, really focus, the easier it becomes.
So now hook on, for example, when we talk about emphasize on waste management and circular economy, it also helps tackling water pollution, soil degradation from toxins, microplastics, and invasive species. So steer this biodiversity topic through waste management is one of the easy ways to engage on biodiversity. So you can focus on the highest rates of landfill to manage your waste, for example. When you analyze your supply chain or your consumptions, you can target which ones have the most production on waste, and by managing your waste, how you can actually improve the quality of the soils, how you can limit the landfills that you're engaging in your value chains, and so on. I would like to give you a minute to write down some circular economy actions that your organizations are already taking, and just to have an idea and map in front of you what actions are already in place and which ones you could engage. You can also share them in the chat directly. And also don't hesitate to intervene and give out your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, or speak up, huh? So are there good examples where elements of circular economy were linked to biodiversity, which paved the way for biodiversity?
Antonio would say that would prefer the other way around, biodiversity management techniques, which could be useful to circular economy goals. Would you like to expand on that?
I think we are speaking, and I'm speaking about the same thing. It's quite dangerous to think that I can understand what you are saying, but most of the population is drive to think that, okay, I have this measure about circular economy, and then I'm going to solve it. And okay, if it's solved in a circular economy way, I would have biodiversity solved directly. And it's not like that, you know. I think we should, as someone wrote, biodiversity is everywhere. That's good, but that's bad also. It's not enough to focus on circular economy or on green deals. And okay, this is good for biodiversity. I would say that approach can be a little bit dangerous, because I think that kind of idea is that the thing that I said first. So biodiversity is not fashion anymore. Biodiversity is there, but it was substituted by other concepts. And I would say that I would prefer to have biodiversity management contributing to circular economy. But it's the same way I would prefer to have forest sustainable management contributing to circular economy. So, but I'm a little bit stubborn, you know, so maybe it's
No, you know, and I really support what you're saying, you know, but I think, and I'm really from the same background, but today we are faced with businesses. Yeah,
I know that.
And so therefore we try ways to hook on, you know, so that's.
I know that.
And so that's, but from a principle point of view, I fully support what you're saying.
It's really tough. It's really tough because, for instance, in Portugal, we have a measure which is quite common. When a company wants to solve something about circular economy, it's just plant trees. And I would say, okay, planting trees, it's good. Yeah, but I'm not worried with planting trees. I'm worried, sorry, I'm worried with, okay, and then who is going to manage them? Because if they die after who is going to manage those trees? So, but I fully agree. So by saying this, I will agree with you at the same time, saying that I need to to bring awareness to circular economy, because it is what it is. Life is life.
Well, you know, if it helps, huh?
Yes. Yeah,
You know,
that's
we're very opportunistic in our approach.
yeah,
now.
I know that.
If it helps, we do
That's
that.
the word. That's the word I'm looking for. But if it was in Portuguese, I would say it good. But speaking Portuguese, thinking in English, it's tough.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's
that's
opportunistic because we
that's
want
the
to
idea.
move on, and we are really afraid and we're worried that it's not high on the agenda. And there's another thing. For example, in the Netherlands, the Dutch Financial Bank has indicated that they want to see from the financial institutions, where are you risk for biodiversity? So the hook which we use then is, hey guys, in business, the loans can be more expensive if you don't look it from a risk perspective. So we are, you know, we don't take no for an answer. We take all kinds of angles in order to get it through.
I would say one of the things which can be useful, at least I think it's in all European countries, but in Portugal it's everything we can do to stop land abandonment can be traced to biodiversity.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's a good way to work with circular economy because it helps maintaining the dynamic of rural communities. So I can put jobs, I can put social aspects, and by the same time, I'm helping biodiversity because actually land abandonment, it's not good for biodiversity, at least in Portugal. That's another thing. One thing that can be good in Portugal cannot be good in another place. So
yeah, that's
another issue.
So our argument there, actually, when that's also, we're back on the debate of the chicken and the egg, actually, which way to address this biodiversity action. This example here is about waste management, and that's the first kind of action that we see in circular economy that could be also beneficial to limiting the pollution and landfill and deterioration of soils. And that's actually pretty concrete actions to show both to governance, actually, of businesses, of organizations, and to be able to action that in reporting and to communicate on that, because that's both about communication, your action on this, and how you start measuring slowly and at your own pace about it. Because we saw that biodiversity measurement and tackling in itself and its very highest level is not efficient enough, because it's considered too complicated, so really left behind, right? There's
I would say that.
Right?
Oh, sorry.
No,
I would say for my experience with biodiversity monitoring, it's the worst indicators to do politics, the worst, because measuring biodiversity and monitoring wildlife populations, it's the worst to use in policies, the worst. But I know, I can understand that we need, and maybe companies and need also, and board of directors love metrics, but that's an handicap. I would say that measuring biodiversity and give a value to biodiversity, it's tough because
yeah, but fully agree. It's an handicap, but that's what they ask. And then when we're training, we're saying, don't ask for that, just accept projects. That's how we start in order. Yeah.
One step further also is shifting what you consume to avoid both effect of production and waste processing. So tackling overexploitation, land use with circular consumption, circular procurement. These are some concrete actions that are actually having an effect, positive impact on biodiversity. Because by minimizing your consumption, you also have a conservation effort, right? So you focus on your circular actions on areas processing the most biomass, wood, food, and biofuels. These are some concrete areas that we all engage, that we all use in our value chains, and that are actually actionable to to address both circular consumption, circular transition, and improving your biodiversity impact. When you invest or consume, for example, more regenerative agriculture issued products, regenerative agriculture is a ongoing topic, is a very new topic, but it's a very actionable and a very reachable target to have, and to have both this circular action and biodiversity impact. Food is one of the most threatening sector for biodiversity, and whether you're working in the food sector or managing the food provision of your collaborators, for example, this is a very concrete and hands-on sector to focus on, to add biodiversity into your sustainability action.
Yeah, and I think, Sarah, that everybody around the table here is very much in favor of biodiversity, because otherwise we didn't participate. But by doing it the way you explained, we can also, in the companies we work with, we can enlarge the group who likes to work on it. We can give them some tips, as you're doing to us. Huh?
And that gets us back to the action, the engagement of ambassadors within your collaborators. That's where they can actually have some concrete impacts and concrete projects, engaging other collaborators in that action. And now back to you. We would like to have a round table and have everyone get inspired and inspiring each other and getting inspired. Now that we have assessed the gap between sustainability maturity and biodiversity maturity, we saw the gap, and you also shared how you explain your gap, whether it is knowledge, actionability, transition tools. We would like to have this collective exercise where, well, I said on Mentimeter, but as we saw, there was a little issue with the Mentimeter. So you can either interact orally now in the conversation, or share on the chat the actions of your company or your organization on circular economy. And we can discuss together how it relates to biodiversity and how to concretely action this on biodiversity.
Yes, let's just, if possible, let's just speak up, because it's a small group, so let's speak up. What good examples do you have to overcome the gap in relation to circular economy, or perhaps other, for businesses?
Well, I'd love to answer, but you'll have to excuse me because I'm out of a job at the moment, so I cannot answer it. But I hope someone else has some beautiful insights. The thing I got from the, let's say, the session so far is, for me, biodiversity would be implicitly in the restorative principle of the circular economy already. But by highlighting it again, well, it's in the top of mind for me. So therefore, perhaps we'll more easily debate the topic, hopefully in the nearby future. So thank you for the session.
Okay, thank you, Joost, and good luck by finding a job. At least
thanks.
This period gives you the opportunity to follow a lot of sessions like this. Huh?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I worked last year and I sort of lost track of my passion with sustainability and especially the circular economy topic. So getting back in all these sessions, it's a lot of fun. And yeah.
And do you see what we see in the field of business, that there is so much focus on circular economy that's really difficult to get biodiversity in? Do you see that, or?
Yeah, well, I think for me, when I think about business, I think about money. And I think that's always a difficult conversation. So how are we gonna do the mitigations? But how are we gonna value that? That's always the trade-off that's going on.
Yeah, and that's why I always start, and I have a business background, start with the risk approach, right?
Mm-hmm. yeah, I found it really, that's a real strong opener to do that. Yeah, and also it sort of seems to me that, well, already it's mentioned that we think in measurable stuff, but it's also very hard to value the biodiversity. Already, it's hard. It was hard, or it took quite some decennia to, well, to get the topic of climate change and depletion of materials and get that all in the numbers. And then there's this even more complex system, which is, well, let's say nature. So how to address that?
And do we need to value it? I mean, of course, this is we value nature, but if we value in terms of monetizing, where I know there's a lot of work is being done, but I also see on the other side, all that work paralyzes organizations who are just at the beginning.
Yeah, that's...
It paralyzes, yeah.
True. Well, I think there's the sort of the idea that we can only do something once it's valued, but
yeah. And you know, a lot of investment decisions also in the airline industry, which is my background, as I said, you know, of course you make investment decision on paper with all the calculations, but then still always intuition plays a very large role also in the boardroom. So I think we need to value, yeah, but value in terms of monetizing or measurement. Let's continue to do that, but let's be careful to impose that on businesses. That's my personal opinion.
I wouldn't advocate it either, because I think it's not going to happen at all, and therefore, well, it will always play a losing game, because then someone could say, well, there's no numbers, so we cannot measure it, so what's the point of doing? But yes, of course, it's important, and well, it's one of the reasons why I'm in this field, because, well, there's a global problem, and if we don't do anything, then at some point, well, it runs out. And well, I would find it a pity.
Thank you. I think we all agree to that statement. Anybody else? In general.
But one final thing, I think also with the circular economy, well, now I'm mainly interested, for instance, in cities. And the main focus, it's on the streams of the materials, it's on perhaps the dynamics of the people. It's all about us, let's say human related, and that there's sort of a division of nature and our living environment that we call which is our cultivated worlds. And perhaps that there's a sort of a value shift or realization moment necessary, and well, that should perhaps start at primary school and, well, in all of our values, that it's not us and nature, it's us among nature. And well, within business, well, you also have business life and you have your normal living life. So there's also a division there. So that's also a mindset change, I think, necessary in order to get this embedded in all the decision making.
You know, I couldn't agree more. Huh? And especially also now, I think within COVID, when you analyze that and you see that, for me, it goes back to our relation with nature, exactly in the words you just described. But if we wait until everybody has made that mind shift, I'm afraid we're too late.
And it's going to take a long
That's why we use every angle possible to engage businesses on biodiversity, be it risk, be it circular economy, be it sometimes employee engagement, as Sarah explained. It's you know, then we say, you know, if you have plants in the indoor, etc., do something on biodiversity. The simple it is in order to start somewhere. That's that's our approach.
We have a comment here also that the major challenge is to work with consumers on biodiversity.
From who is the comment? Perhaps he or she can speak up.
It's for me.
Antonio.
I would say that for me, in the agriculture sector at the moment, that's the major barrier, because when you ask me the actions in my company, everything is related to biodiversity. But
Yeah.
I do understand, because we manage biodiversity, farmers manage biodiversity. So one of the good things, then I think it's connected with what you were talking about. It's how are we going to explain consumers that probably the value that we cannot give to biodiversity, they will need to pay when they buy a product. That's the major barrier, because, and I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, perhaps we can continue the discussion after this session, because we also have been working with regenerative agriculture, and then along in fact the value chain, up till the consumers, how to include that in the not only the price of the product, but also the reputation of the product, etc. And that's just so at its beginning. It's only so at the beginning. And although I think that the EU, and Sarah knows much more about it than I do, the EU Farm to Fork program and the biodiversity program of the EU are both supporting our discussion as we're having here. But let's see where we can join, because I think that's, and of course the whole agriculture depends on biodiversity, exactly what you're saying, and we as consumers, we do not realize it enough, and the companies working in the food chain don't realize it enough. Yeah. Okay, Sarah, I think we're about to close, huh?
Yeah, I think we can have this, as we said, we can continue the discussion. There's the We Value Nature platform that you can reach out, and you can reach out to us there. We are registered. It's very quick to connect there. We will be sending the link very soon. So that you can participate in other forums also around the 10 days challenge and around the We Value Nature program in general. You can also connect with us directly. Our email addresses are here, and we are always open for a debate and further discussion on relating biodiversity and circular economy, which is a raising topic, and we can always share some more insights and solutions together on how to engage businesses in this journey.
Yeah, thank you. I hope we have not overwhelmed you with models and matrices, etc. But it's just we're looking for all kinds of entrances. And thanks for joining.
For participating, and wish everyone a very nice evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
You too.